If you want to see an example of elections and the attempt to rig elections is concerned, this video will give you ample proof of what the Republicans are saying is true, except it's the Republicans that are doing it.
Welcome back. We are launching a new series today. It's called Battleground America, focusing in on critical issues in crucial swing states that could play a major role in our election. Today, we're going to the battleground state of North Carolina and the fight over voting rights there. Recent polls have the race between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump in a dead heat. NBC's Chris Jansing joins me live from Winston-Salem, where early voting is a hot-button issue there.
And a very emotional one as well, Tamron. And this kind of church, this predominantly African-American church, the Golar Memorial AME Zion, is ground zero for this ongoing fight. A lot of people thought it had been settled because there was a federal court ruling that said a restrictive new law unfairly targeted blacks and that they had to change it. But to change it, they went back to every individual county. Each board got to look at what they were doing. And here, in this area, they lost that Sunday voting, which means they lost that traditional souls to the polls, hundreds of blacks who would go together, who would have an opportunity to get transportation if they needed it on a day when they generally didn't have to be at work. And so this continues to be an extremely difficult issue for a lot of folks, including two of the parishioners I talked to here about losing Sunday voting. Here's what they said.
The anger and the frustration for me now is about fighting. You know, we've been angry and frustrated for many years, but it's about fighting now. It is. It's about standing up for our rights and fighting.
So how do you do that?
Well, you know, I'm a veteran, so, you know, I've been fighting, then I was a law enforcement officer, so I'm a part of the process. So I have to be conditioned to make things happen in the right way, and if I'm going to teach my son some stuff.
Between the two of them, they have 50 years experience in helping to get people to the polls. They've been volunteering that long. So you can see how deeply personal this is for them. And it matters when you have a race that's a dead heat, because 22% of the voters here in 2012 were African American. They expect those numbers to be very similar this time around. And this isn't just a problem in North Carolina. Over just the last month, at least 7-8 other states have settled court fights like this one, most of them in favor of minority voters. But again, this is one of those areas here in North Carolina where they actually have less voting in 2016 than they did in 2012. And even as we're speaking, Tamron, there are groups that are looking at whether to, even at this late hour, go back to court and fight again to get this Sunday voting back.
Wow.
Tamron?
All right, the battle continues. Thank you very much, Chris.
Now, the Republicans are always talking about the Constitution and people's rights, etc., etc., okay? Now, in this particular case, it was obvious that the North Carolina voting restriction, and I call them restriction laws, were biased against minorities, particularly black people. The Court of Appeals ruled against the state as far as implementing those laws, and the state turned around and appealed it up to the Supreme Court, where they lost. So what ended up happening was they knew they had to make a change. Now, instead of the State Board of Elections mandating that each county revert back to the laws that were in place and the voting times, places, etc., that were in place before that law was instituted, what they decided to do was to refer the implementation of the various rules, voting places, times, etc., down to the county level. Now, let me say this. The 5 people that are on the State Board of Elections are people that were all appointed by the governor. They were not elected, they were appointed by the governor. So which way do you think the governor wanted them to act? Okay, the majority of the counties, the county board of election people excuse me, reverted back to the way things were before the laws were implemented. But in this particular case, in Forsyth County, the 3 members of the County Board of Elections decided that they were going to try to, well, not that they were going to try to, that they were going to screw the people that were voting in their particular county. It's wrong. They know it's wrong, and they're trying to disenfranchise a lot of the black voters in that county, number one, and principally by removing the early Sunday of voting, known as souls to the polls. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were admonished by the Court of Appeals for targeting black voters and trying to disenfranchise them. But these people are going to try to do this anyway. Hopefully, they will get this particular county back into court and force them to do the right thing. We'll see.